evening, good afternoon, and good morning, everybody. It is the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Gosh, I have a wonderful, absolutely dynamic guest for you guys today, for myself as well. And I can't wait to bring him up. I had the honor and the pleasure of meeting Dr. Richard Allen Miller at the recent Super Soldier Activation Conference down in Orlando, Florida. And let me tell you, there were a lot of wonderful presentations, but don't tell anybody, y'all, his was my favorite out of all of them. And I felt some sort of a psi connection. We're talking psychic with Dr. Miller. And so we're going to dive into his background a little bit today and what he sees in our future, our present, and our past. We're going to talk about grids potentially going down, survival, and the psi aspect. Y'all know I am a longtime remote viewer, and this is right up my alley, and it's going to be right up your alleys as well. So if you guys would like to follow along with all of my shows and check out my website, please go over to the cryptidhuntress.com. You can find all of my social media links there and a calendar of events. I do have the Molina Bigfoot Festival. I will be presenting at that Bigfoot Festival coming up on November the 8th. So y'all please come see me down there at that. And I have more events throughout, I guess, through January, December and January. I have more events. They're all on my calendar. Also, I have a Patreon. Those links are on my website and my shop over on Etsy. It's called War Woman Goods. And I wanted to thank you guys so much for all your support. It means the world to me. Okay, well, let's get into our show today. And I'm going to give a full introduction of Dr. Rom, as a lot of people refer to him as. I'm going to call it, he's Rick. Okay, so y'all buckle up. We've got a really fun ride today. Dr. Richard Allen Miller has a long and extensive resume in the field of physics, metaphysics, and agriculture. Here are just some of the highlights of his very rich and varied resume, from solid state physics and to states of consciousness and all that's in between. He was a prodigy from an early age, and 2 of his high school science projects were adopted by NASA, including one used in the Mariner 4 mission to determine the amount of water on the planet Mars. At age 16, he built a linear accelerator and hydrogen bubble chamber for a science fair project and was the first American to demonstrate particles going faster than the speed of light. He's been involved in research and projects, many at a top secret level, that have formed the basis of several modern-day scientific inventions, and his research in the field of paranormal began as a graduate physicist working 11 years with Navy Intel in anesthesiology. His work includes foundational papers on a holographic concept of reality and embryonic holography, and work with microwaves and synthetic telepathy. He was used as Timothy Leary's experimental guinea pig. Oh my gosh, that had to have been wild. To see what the effects of LSD were when taken by a Mensa level genius. Dr. Miller is a real-life character that the X-Files Mulder was based on, investigating unexplained phenomenon for Navy SEAL Corps and MRU, which put him in the path of many incredible life experiences, including an encounter with an alien and travel to an underground Antarctic Nazi base. As an agriculturalist, he is recognized as an expert in the growing and marketing of crops and herbals, and has invented ingenious and effective farm machinery specific to the type of crops to be harvested, and had input into production of some of the largest crop producers in the world. He's even played tennis at a Davis Cup level, and his metaphysical work springs from his mother and grandmother, who are renowned psychic investigators, and he himself is a high-level initiate of several traditions and lodges. His grandfather was a magician who trained Houdini. Talk about the most interesting man in the world. I thought I had met the most interesting men in the world until I met Dr. Rom. Okay. And his key strength is joining the dots. And y'all, my whole focus is connecting the dots as well. So he joins the dots and draws from his vast pool of research and insight to find ingenious links and applications for designs, projects, and development. And as an author, he has written prolifically with some of the most recent releases, including Power Tools for the 21st Century and ESP Induction Through Forms of Self-Hypnosis. He's also recently released audio courses in metaphysics. And you guys can find all of his books and online courses and online consultations on his website. It is richardallenmiller.com. We're going to talk about that today as well. And please help me welcome to the Cryptid Huntress channel, the most interesting man in the world. Prove me wrong. Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Hey, Rick. How are you?
Hey yourself. Hey, it's the first word that goes into a cow to make you know what. So be careful here.
Hay's for horses.
Yeah, there you go. How can I help you? What do you want to know?
Oh, well, I am, first of all, honored to have you on my show today. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. I very much enjoyed your presentation at the Super Soldier Activation Conference, where you talked about becoming a superhuman or a Superman. And you have worked with government, military, Navy SEALs to teach them how to be super soldiers in a way, psychically and otherwise. Can we talk about that?
Sure. I worked with Steel Corp out of Amherst as one of the first things that I did after I had written some papers on extrasensory perception and those areas. I worked first at Mission Control with Ed Mitchell and did the ESP studies and made a discovery about altered states. Altered states of consciousness are basically tools in a toolbox, and you can use them to escape recreation, get high, take off, but they are also places where the laws of physics change, and you can do things in those states you can't do in normal conscious waking state. A typical example of one of the ones I gave Navy SEALs, and please excuse my voice, I'm losing it because of a viral infection that I have coming here to Florida. There is a state where you can change your perception of time with breath control. People do this in the pool when they'll lay back and listen to their breathing with their ears underwater, floating. And this is a state where you can, for example, take your martial art to a paranormal level. After I had studied with John Leong out of Chinatown as a little boy in third grade, with Bruce Lee, Skip Ellsworth, and Fred Williams, Tante Chung came all the way down from Victoria to teach me how to do double yang style of Tai Chi. And what he did is he taught me how to change my perception of time so that my experience of my movement was that like Tai Chi, yet my actual movement was with the precision of Tai Chi doing Hangao, or dragon form. Now, that's just one of 8 altered states that I gave to the SEAL program that took them and made them essentially Supermen. Imagine what man could become if he had access to more than 200 altered states of consciousness. John Curtis Gowan at Northridge did an ontology of mystical states and broke them down into 3 categories of prototaxic, parataxic, and syntactic modes of consciousness. Now, the prototaxic mode is someone that doesn't know what they're doing, they just do it, like you. That you call it remote viewing. I want to correct you on something. When you draw a circle around yourself in a magical act, the reason you're doing that is you're saying everything inside that circle is you, and everything outside that circle is not you, correct? So, with that said, the distinction between remote viewing and astral projection is one is inside the circle and one is outside the circle. And when you remote view, you're in serious danger because something is looking back.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so with that said, that was the distinction at SRI between Andrea Puharich and when he relocated out and Targ and Putoff moved in and started talking about remote viewing.
Okay.
Remote viewing is dangerous. It'll actually change your soul if you're not careful.
Uh-oh.
Now, that's a prototaxic mode of consciousness where a shaman will place his consciousness in the eye of an eagle and sees what an eagle sees. He doesn't know how he does it. He just does it. Parataxic modes have to do with semi-awareness, with dream states and what we call mythology and archetypes, where you break down things into um, basic stories in a big city kind of thing. And then syntactic modes of consciousness are where you're doing it with full awareness of how you do it. An example might be you're using biofeedback to learn how to control your heart rate, pulse, and respiration. When the doctor puts a cuff on me and he says, "Oh, your heart rate's too high, I'm going to have to put you on meds," I say back to him, cuff me again, and I'll drop it down to anything I want because I've learned how to control my heart rate with my mind's eye. Now, altered states are the same thing. When you're in an altered state, you can, in fact, escape. You can enjoy the high, the place that you go, blah, 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 blah. But instead of doing that, if you chose to focus more on what possible laws of physics change at that thing and use those as a toolbox, then that is the distinction. I'm going to make some distinctions here. Magic with a C, is hairy in your pocket. It's sleight of hand. Magic with a K, Aleister Crowley, is sleight of mind, where you use your belief system as a tool to accomplish your purpose. If your purpose is to do something that your belief system says you can't, you put your belief system to one side and use your mind's eye to take care of business, and then you can reestablish your belief system again. That's what brain drivers are about, where you put frequency following function. With Monroe, you put 40 cycle in one ear and 48 cycle in another ear, and you drive your brain down to 8 cycle or middle theta. Now you can change your belief systems like you would a pair of clothing. A typical example might be, who's more important, your daughter or your mother? And let's say you'd go through a series of tests where you test who's more important, and it comes out that it's your mother over your daughter, and you decide, I really, at this point, in terms of what I'm trying to do for my purpose, I need to change that. That's what a brain driver's for. You teaches you how to change your belief system like you would a pair of clothing, so that your mind, magic with a K, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. That is where you use sleight of mind. And your mind becomes a tool, not an absolute.
Wow.
That clear, sort of?
It's clear. It is clear. Wow. Thank you
So
for
let me
explaining
tell you
that.
what I use at
Interesting.
tarot. My new book
Okay.
on tarot, for example, and this is important, is not about fortune telling. Basically, I'm going to suggest that there are 22 stories in the big city, and Persephone is someone that has some kid that, when she has to go to hell each year, would be a kid taking drugs once a year because he's depressed at Christmas. This is why you shoot your own foot by accident because of the different storyboards that you're currently following. And you or I might have 6 or 7 different basic storyboards going. Try to keep my responses tighter so we don't get lost in my dialogue. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I
You're
don't know what's
perfect.
happening, but yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. We're making it work. It's fun. I'm enjoying this. Okay. So do you remember where we left off? We were talking about
we were
Persephone.
talking about the use of altered states of consciousness, and John Curtis Gowan at Northridge did an ontology of mystical states. And so there's just a myriad of different altered states. Just you listening to me right now, I would say that you have probably been at least 3 or 4 unique altered states of consciousness where the laws of physics in those places change. And if you learn how to identify where you are, that's the purpose of meditation and dialogue, honest journaling. Everyone listening to me should start keeping a daily log where you have to go from right to left brain on memory of what's happened that day. And if you do that, that's a form of time travel 20 years later. When you go back and read what you just wrote 20 years ago, it's like it puts you back in that same
Mm-hmm.
moment, which is a kind of time travel. Meditation, where you try to quiet the mind. All your saints in history have stressed the importance of training the mind. The mind is a tool, it's not absolute. And this storyboard that you're currently enjoying with me is one of many storyboards where you never even heard of me before. And they're
Mm-hmm.
all happening right now in what we call the multiverse. And that all those different universes are held within what is called the proton cloud. I just completed a field study with two Russians on alien DNA. And
Mm-hmm.
anything with a face, two arms, and two legs is a carbon based life form and probably your future.
Whoa. Interesting. You know, I did appreciate that you were conveying to me at the conference that this is all a dream.
It's
We are
a
living in a dream.
consciousness, yeah, consciousness is can be as a metaphor.
Mhm.
Consciousness is a dream within a dream. Excuse me. Because lucid dreaming has more content to reality than consciousness does. And so, what do you think death is? Waking up.
Wow, that's
At the
deep.
moment of death, when you die, physically die, not near death, when you die, there is a 5 gram. Now, somebody is calling again. It's that Lori Sam.
Don't say it.
Huh?
Don't say it.
That's her. She just did it. Says okay. And now it's gone again. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Uh-huh.
Okay, good.
Just ignore it now.
This is what has cut us off twice before, and I was
Hmm.
just making note on that so
Okay.
that we discover how to stop it.
We're gonna
um,
stop it with our
well,
minds.
good luck.
Jedi mind trick.
What's that, Mom?
A Jedi mind trick. We're gonna stop it with our mind.
Mind trick. Yeah, good luck with that one
Wah!
too. Yeah. Um, Basically, we go in and out of different altered states without any awareness at all. In fact, that's one of the reasons why you want to get to know who you are,
Mhm.
because once you do that, the laws change for you and they're different for each of us. What's right for me isn't necessarily right for you. And we just have a discovery. The SEALs, what I did, I in the current SEAL program with SEAL Corp out of Amherst, is I did a series of reports and made some discoveries where I trained them in use of 8 altered states, and just those 8 made them supermen. I mean, they were able to do things no one else can do. For example, when Ed Mitchell went through the Van Allen belt around the moon, we did the ESP studies,
Mhm.
and I made a discovery. That's the ESP book. There's an altered state where you can go from consciousness using self hypnosis, where your ability in guessing increases 400 times where you are right now. That means that if you're in a shooting situation, you go right or left. If you think about it and the possibilities of getting shot, you can count on it because that's chapter 8 in the non local mind titled The Mind's Eye, where imagination is reality. Now, in a dream state where you are right now, that means there probably will never be a theory of everything because anything you could imagine as possibly true, including getting shot, you can
Mhm.
count on it. It's even that and even more. So that's one of the reasons why you need to train your mind and the thoughts you choose to entertain. To
Mhm.
you and Caveman, all told me the house is blah, blah, blah. Okay, didn't cost me, we didn't get lost, did we?
No,
Okay, good.
that's
That
wonderful.
another thing came up on her phone that the last first 2 times disrupted
Cut
us.
us off.
So
We're
this,
we're working. I'm
we're good.
working to
Okay, good.
not let it cut off.
So I've done some talking. Now you ask more questions and I'll try to tangent like I do.
Okay. So you are actually teaching the Navy SEALs these psychic abilities and ways to prevent
Well,
themselves
psychic
from.
is, you're all psychic.
Yes.
It's just we don't recognize when we're in that state. And if you're a medium where you are automatically doing it where you are in what you consider conscious state, it means you're slightly different in where you hang out.
Mm-hmm.
But Duke University challenged me on this, and they brought in 1979. They brought in Sybil Leek, Gene Dixon, and the usual suspects, and I won it by 3 orders of magnitude. I wasn't even near where they were, which means it's not about me. It's a technique that anyone can do, and that's where that was one of the first protocols I trained SEALs in was how to use this altered state so that when they made a decision. Um, if they got shot, for example, it meant they were supposed to get shot by definition. Do you see what I'm
Wow.
saying? Right.
Yes.
And rather than creating the event of thinking, oh my God, it could have this could happen and that could happen. When you do that, you can count on it happening.
Wow. So we create our own reality. That's
That is
a given.
correct. The
We
mind's
do.
eye, where
Mm-hmm.
imagination is reality. Now, with that said, then I would say that children are probably our single most important natural resource,
Mm-hmm.
even over oil and timber. And why would we want to send them to school to become us?
We
They're already
shouldn't.
come out of the womb smart. They don't have knowledge. The concept of knowledge and wisdom is that knowledge is illusion, and wisdom is when you take, not learn something, but you study it. And when you study it, what you're basically doing is taking something that I'm saying, integrating it into your own reality and making it yours. And that's wisdom. And the
Mm-hmm.
distinction between knowledge, which Castaneda would call illusion.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Uh-oh. Oh no, we lost him again. Okay. This is why we're going to wait for him to come back. Okay. But this is why I always tell the audience, I tell you guys, we got to be careful about what we think we manifest, right? And that's why I always say, like, don't live in fear and to live in awareness. Okay. But try to stay positive. And, Jane in the chat's always letting us know that we need to keep our vibrations high. And yes, we do. Just try to think positive uh, that's why we're so bombarded with such negative stuff in our environments and on television and in our everyday lives. There's a lot of negativity and fear and guilt and shame and you know reasons for whoever them and they are, to make us feel less than and not pretty enough and not skinny enough and all that stuff, not good enough, not smart enough. But gosh darn it, people like me, right? That's from Saturday Night Live. And Dr. Ram is going to be on Saturday Night Live one day. We've had that discussion. And I know that's going to happen. If he believes it, it will happen. If they build it, they will come, right? And so yeah, so we have to start consciously creating a beautiful, better world. And when Dr. Ram gets back, we're going to discuss a grid down situation and the importance of having a clear mind. When that does happen, having a clear mind and having a solid mind, not letting your imaginations run wild. And here we go. We're going to have Dr. Richard Allen Miller back on the screen. Hey there. Can you hear me?
Where would you like
Right,
to go
we're
now?
back. We're back. Well, okay, so we're talking about manifesting our own reality.
That's
And
correct. In
it
conscious state, this is a dream state right now. It's not real. And all the different you that made decisions today on whether to put jam on your toast, to call me or not to interview me, etc., they all happened. And what you are doing is just experiencing one of them right at this moment. That's called the multiverse. And a new chapter that I just wrote with two Russians on alien DNA studies. I
Hmm.
had one single tour at Groom Lake and got to meet krill. And personally, I think krill was my future programming me for this moment.
Hmm.
I don't
Wow.
think I think, I'm asleep and she's trying to guide me to become her.
Hmm. Krill, was
As,
that the extraterrestrial being?
yeah, as I've seen alien life forms, like aluminum based life forms in Prague, that's
Hmm.
creepy because all our TV shows depict aliens as worms or somehow wiggle room, that have
Uh-huh.
a life form to them. They're either,
Hmm.
coming out of the mouth as a virus or whatever they're doing. But I've seen aluminum, and that's creepy, where the metal is self-organizing. It isn't like have legs. It doesn't have face. It doesn't dialogue. It has a whole complete alien form to it.
Wow.
And anything that you think is an alien is probably your future. One of the
Hmm.
things Krill said to me, quote, if you were to choose an artifact to remember Earth by, what would it be? And if you chose the right one, you could choose the star of your choice to complete your evolution. What would your artifact be? Now, what does that imply? It implies, for example, one thing it might imply is what color do you want to be? You want to be an insectoid or a tall gray? And one of the things that I've realized is that Dr. Charlotte Bach wrote a paper that's at the Warburg called Homo Mutant, Homo Lumen. And basically, man's next stage in evolution is as a light body that needs a golem to come down and slum here in fourth space.
Wow.
So, Roswell, for example, might be a small gray because it's in a small craft, that requires a small shaped body.
Hmm.
And a tall gray might be on a planet where the gravitation is a lot less than here, or a Nordic, or an insectoid, or, I mean,
Hmm.
all the different possible alien forms that we have now that have morphed out of little green men from Mars,
Yeah.
they're all real
Hmm.
because you imagine them as possible. And the very fact that you imagine them as possible makes them not only possible, it's even more than that.
Wow. Well, you were an inspiration for the TV show, the series, The X Files, and
What happened? Yeah, I can tell you
tell
what
tell me
happened.
about that.
Yeah, okay. So after I did the SEAL reports, that's a book I haven't completed yet called the SEAL reports. Um, I was contacted by Dr. Karl Schleicher. Schleicher was a Nazi like von Braun. Von Braun did space program. Schleicher did everything else that nobody could, and that was the paranormal. And I became Northwest Regional Director of MRU because of my background in instrumentation and the fact that I could take and isolate variables in being able to study something for reproducibility and repeatability, something that we had. Yeah, okay, good. That's physics. The problem is that physics in conscious state, I can't get there from here. It's like Simon says I can go halfway to the door. I can get close, but I never get a cigar because anything further I could possibly imagine is not only true, it's even more so. And as a physicist, what I'm trying to do is isolate how to study something so that I can understand how to reproduce it and repeat it. Now, Uri Geller and Jack Schwartz and Keith Milton Reinhardt were examples of billet reading. Now, the problem with Uri Geller was that while he could bend spoons and break watches and things like that, he couldn't do it when he wanted to do it. He could do it, but sometimes it wouldn't happen. And so he had a bunch of famous wealthy women around him that, oh, break my spoon, bend my, whatever. And he started to cheat. And I caught him. And that took that whole body and made it invalid just because I busted him. But that didn't mean it didn't happen. Let me give you an example of billet reading, which is quite different than extrasensory perception. Keith Milton Reinhardt came to one of my courses. I was teaching in metaphysics at the University of Washington, and he came in and he did a billet reading for 201 people. Now, what you do is you write a question down and you stick it in your pocket, and he doesn't know what the question is, and then he answers it. Mine was, prove to me you're not reading my mind. And he doesn't know what I'm asking. And his response to me is, quote, in my mother's bedroom is a hope chest at the front of her bed, and at the very bottom of that hope chest is a letter written 3 days before you were born. How did he do that? How do you isolate studies to, reproduce that concept? The current theosophical movement, or woo woo, is what are they? Akashic records. What does that mean? I'm a physicist. I would like to know how I could duplicate what he did. As a science person, and I haven't been able to figure that one out. But here's the weird part: Keith Milton Reinhardt nailed 198 out of 201 people. He was dead on, like I was with my response. His response to me, it scared the bejesus out of everybody because nobody could figure out how he did that. And yet he consistently did that, and that led to mediumship and the Aquarian Foundation in Seattle, Washington. Um, I have encountered a number of different unusual things in my studies with paranormal. There are entities that are non human that interface with mankind on Earth, and we don't even know or notice them. For example, Denzel Washington wrote one about a demon, and Pierce Brosnan did another one, a movie called Nomads. This entity was in a chapter you can read on the secret life of Jim Morrison. You'll find that in a book by Feral Press called Secret and Suppressed. The study I did was that Jim Morrison did not die in Paris, and he was smuggled
Wow.
out of Paris into the United States via the Swedish Secret Service. And I followed it and found a fat Jim Morrison working at a laser company down in Louisiana,
No
still alive.
way. Really?
Yeah, that's a fact. Now, with that said, what's going on? Well, at that moment, when he was 10 years old, his parents were driving in New Mexico through a thing called the Crossroads when a Hopi medicine man died, and that entity, known as a recorder, it does not interfere with what you are or what you do. What it
Mhm.
does is it records what's going on at that moment around you. And when that entity dies, like when the Hopi medicine man died, the entity, then the recorder, moved to Jim Morrison at age 10. And a lot of his songs discuss that in the way he did what he did. And when Jim Morrison died, the recorder moved to someone else.
Wow.
And
Can I
that
can I can I
entity,
interrupt
yeah,
for
go
just
ahead.
one moment? There's you mentioned Denzel Washington. He actually made a movie that I refer to on my show often called Fallen, where
Yeah,
it's an
there's
entity
about
that
that.
jumps bodies.
Yeah, that's a metaphor for other kinds of life forms that intercrop with humans on Earth. There's a
Wow.
whole series of different things that are like that. And one of the studies I did for Dr. Carl Schleicher was to confirm that. Schleicher was a Nazi that when he when Germany fell and he started working for the US government, he did all the paranormal things like Montauk and stuff like
Oh,
that out of the East Coast.
hmm.
I did everything on the West Coast, and Dr. Wilbur Franklin did everything in the Midwest. And whenever there was a weird thing, they would send me in on the West Coast to figure out what it was. One of the things I did, for example, is the Oregon vortex up in near Central Point or Glendale, Washington,
Hmm.
Oregon. And
Wow.
what I did is I flew over the Oregon vortex in a PBY at 15,000 feet with an interferometer. What bends light at 15,000 feet? A mini black hole. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to suggest that the so called 12,000 year magnetic pole shift that we have is happening right now. And it's a series of many black holes in a specific sacred geometry called the ley lines, the Bermuda Triangle, and others. And it's going into the out of. And it's like a wiping of the petri dish where we get to a certain level of awareness, we get a certain level of accomplishment in our technology, and the petri dish is wiped, and we start all over again. And each time, one of the types of technologies might be spaceflight, where we first have the Vermana, and now we have a rocket ship, and who knows what the next 12,000 years will produce as the embodiment of what we call, spaceflight. Now, I can tell you what I don't know. Um, in terms of time and space, I know they're not real because I've done time travel and I've actually created a wormhole. One of the things I did for NASA back in 1983, I took 12 NASA scientists to Mars. And I did that by using my own neurotransmitters, which are the highs that you get when you smoke, let's say, dimethyltryptamine from crabgrass. What I discovered is it's not the drug that gets you high, it's your immune system's response. And it's the release of a specific neurotransmitter. And in the case of dimethyltryptamine, the one you get out of crabgrass is 5 alpha dimethyltryptamine, whereas the one that creates the high is your immune system's response with N comma and hyphen dimethyltryptamine. That was a study that I did at the University of Washington, and then later Rick Strassman and others have done on dimethyltryptamine. Neurotransmitters are basically unique geometries that, if you can manifest them in your mind's eye in a specific manner, you can create a wormhole. And the bad news is it's easier to go further away than next door. That means it's easier to go to Alpha Centauri than it is to the bathroom next door to you. It's further away is easier. And that again suggests that everything is a binary, like the Earth, and that our sun soul has a binary Nibiru. And I find it interesting that Nibiru blocked Beetlejuice in November of last year for 4 days when Beetlejuice did a burp. It didn't go nova, but it burped. And that shockwave hit our soul in June of this year, which caused a burp from the sun that caused Earth's central pole to center to stop spinning and start spinning in the opposite direction. And what's happening, and you're going to read about it right now, is that it's affecting the magnetic fields in the weaker parts of Earth, like the Juan de Fuca fault line, and it's going to start throwing lava to the surface where we'll have geographical changes that will cause Earth changes, with
Mm-hmm.
happening what we call the 12,000 year magnetic pole shift. I think this has to do with a bunch of mini black holes and a sacred geometry on Earth going into the out of. Now, here's the weird news.
Okay.
Turns out Saturn has exactly the same geometry I use to go to Mars. What does that mean? Well, one, it means our solar system is a life form. And if you don't think NASA doesn't want to know where that wormhole goes, I am not kidding you. And especially right now as a get out of jail card.
Yeah.
There will be survivors. There has always been survivors, but the way I like to put it so that everybody gets it clearly, those kids in high school right now that are so dependent on their cell phone, what happens to them when the grid goes down and they no longer have their AI to do their thinking for them? That's
Yeah.
called zombie when there's no more food, even without any landmass changes. Yeah, you're getting the
Yeah.
big
Yes.
and
Yes.
worse.
I get it.
Yeah, and within 4 generations of them, that is what I call a Stone Age, with or without any other
Yeah.
disasters. Now, Bride, someone just tried to invite you to join us as part two taking territory. Yeah, that one didn't change her. See, sometimes she calls and then they causes us to go blank. So
Yeah, we're pushing through it. Yes. Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about the grid down prediction that you have,
oh, yeah, well, the
and that's
three
something
eye
that we worry
atlas,
about sometimes.
three
Hmm.
eye atlas is an artificial form coming in and recording where we are right now because the pole shift is about to happen.
Oh no. Okay.
Thought you'd like to have that little extra there just to
I
add some.
do. Yeah, that's important information.
Well, it could be. The thing
Hmm.
that makes it weird is the fact that the core of Three Eye Atlas is nickel, which means it's changing the orbit as it's going by objects, including our sun. The sun tried to do a burp on it, just ignored it. Now, that's either a nickel core like Earth has got, or it's an alien craft that's surrounded by nickel. And we don't know what it is.
Hmm.
What's
Could
that?
be. Well, I've done some remote viewing on it. I've been given it. Of course, remote viewing is a little dangerous. I know, but I've been tasked with some blind coordinate targets of Three Eye Atlas, and I believe that it is a spacecraft of
But we
some
don't
sort.
know that, and you don't know how you do
We
your
don't.
remote viewing per se.
I
That's like
don't
we
know.
call a prototaxic mode. That
Yeah.
ESP book that I've written will take what you're doing and fine tune you so that you
Okay.
really can get into some stuff. That's what it did with Navy SEALs.
Well, I'm going to buy it. You don't worry about that. I'll have it read by next week.
Well, what I want you to do is not buy the book. Yes, thank you. But what I want you to do is actually study that protocol and develop your own technique for remote viewing or what you call
Okay.
mediumship, where you do your own vision. Because
Okay.
once you do that, it'll increase 400 times from where you are right now.
Yes, I need that. Especially before we have a grid down situation. How important is it to have your mind in a good place when we have a disaster like that may or may not happen in the near future?
Well, which way do you want to do it? You want to watch the big wave come in while you're sitting there watching the wave come in? They thought it
Yeah.
was going to be that. Or you want to be on top of a mountain watching somebody watch it. There, that's
Those are not good options, really. Neither of 'em. I don't know. It's really tragic, but if I say
well,
we need to be prepared for anything.
yeah, but you chose to be here to witness
I
that. That's
did. Yeah.
and it's fun. Dialogue it and keep a record because the last 5 epochs, there's nothing that survives written record. I had to do geology to do that study.
Hmm.
Your cloud isn't going to last. What do you think? Internet
We're all
cloud?
gonna die. We're
You
all
know,
gonna die.
to ask Microsoft was when they came out with 11, I said, if you were to die, who owns that intellectual property?
Hmm.
Microsoft is not what you think they are. They're a bunch of rip-off. I use Linux right now as one of my platforms and Windows 7 did everything I ever needed it to do.
Yeah.
Why did they go to 8.1? Why did they go to 10?
I
Why
don't
are
know, for
11?
surveillance.
Well,
This is for entertainment purposes only,
that's,
audience.
money, and how did Madonna put it? I'm a materialistic girl.
I'm a material girl.
Yeah,
That's what
there
she
you go.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's all about the money
And
and
money
keeping
is
us slaves.
isn't that the way they say? You know,
Hmm.
money is good for business. War is good for business.
Yes, it is.
But that was one of the primary teachings of Christ. You don't
Hmm.
judge anyone but yourself. And
Hmm.
yet all our wars have been judging another. The Jews versus the Arabs versus the the Christians versus the Christians. I mean,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
in fact, one of the studies I did a long time ago indicated that when we had a matriarchal society, a universe run by women rather than men, there were no wars.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. Cleopatra.
They just complained all the time, right? I'm just
There
kidding.
never meant I'm just messing.
I know I'm a woman. I can say that. Okay. I was the head of a women's agency for the state of Georgia for
Where
almost 20 years. Yeah. And I love men. I love
I
men.
tell
Okay.
you
Don't get
one
me
thing,
wrong.
I'm
I
not
know what you
prejudiced.
mean.
I went to high school in a different high school at the same time. Jimi Hendrix. He was at Garfield when I was at Mount Rainier, and so
Cool.
I'm not prejudiced at all. That was simply Black Lives Matter was to polarize us and drawing a note of the distinction between one skin color and another, when in
That's
fact
right.
Thrash was a better doubles player than I was.
Yeah. There's a lot of problem. A lot of things are kind of artificially put into society, and I say artificially as a psychological
Just to polar,
warfare
yeah.
to polarize us all. So we're always fighting against each other, and we're not focusing. First of all, I say to focus on yourself first.
Well, then
Always
that's
focus on yourself and then each
find the
other.
uniqueness that makes you God's favorite choice.
God's favorite. Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah. It
No
so
tongue. I'm just kidding.
well so it is important to have our minds in a good place. In the case of we do have some kind of apocalyptic event, um, having the tools that we need on a
Hold on.
psychic level is important.
Not low battery.
Okay, well,
That's coming up.
Plug it in.
Yeah. There's all these little notes trying to cause it not to happen between us.
They're trying to stop
But
us. I
do
know.
this many, many times if you like. And when you send me a StreamYard at home, I'll be able to do regular with you because I have regular. I use
Well,
a
you bet. I
Linux.
want you to come back. You better
Yeah.
come back and do another interview with me one day.
Yeah. And maybe what I'd like you to do is take a bunch of questions from your audience, the people that are listening, and what they want to hear about.
I will. I'm going to ask the audience right now to please put any kind of questions for a future. This is going to be for a future show with Dr. Rom, Richard Allen Miller. We're going to put your questions for him down in the comment section under the video, and we're going to prepare another show in the future with Dr. Rom, and we're gonna have all the questions ready.
Ram. Richard Allen Miller. That's what Dr. Ram.
Dr. Ram.
Yeah.
I say Rick.
Not Rom.
Yeah.
I'm not a Rom. I'm
Are
Ram.
you a Rom or a Ram?
I'm a
You say
Ram.
tomato. I'm just kidding.
That was tomato, tomato, and it's all
Dr.
the same.
Ram.
You say tomato, I say tomato. But the rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
On the plane. That's right. That is from, what is that, from My Fair Lady?
Just
That's
kidding.
from My Fair Lady. Yes. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you on Saturday Night Live.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm looking forward to seeing you opening on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, man, you have no idea. Dark humor, I'm your Huckleberry.
You are.
Yeah, I knew John and Jim Bellucci when they moved to Oregon, and Jim is now currently growing a cultivar of mine that I started at Boeing. And my first job out of grad school was Lunar Base Alpha 1 with Alec Pilgrim. I was dating Vicky, his daughter, and we were growing pot on the moon. That's an article in High Times. You can read about it. Growing pot on the moon. Later, it became the Space Center. That was 1968.
Oh, man. How cool.
That I took my first hill of LSD. I was part of a study at Harvard before they closed it down. I was one of the 10 kids from different states that had this high IQ, and they wanted to see what would happen. And how did Jack Nicholson put it? Wait till they get a load of me.
What was the outcome of that study? What happened?
I was up at, he had talked to, I was a junior in college. I was 20 years old, and I was up at Hurricane Ridge. I'd never done anything, alcohol, nothing. I was a nerd.
Whoa.
And my goal at that time was to become an astronaut. And I was up at Hurricane Ridge, Deception Pass, looking 2,000 feet down, and the water's peeling back color. And Larry leaned over and he said, "Wouldn't it be neat to jump?" And it was at that moment my whole life changed, because all these doors were slamming shut. Oh, I don't want to hear this. No, I don't want to think that. The paranoia part. And what that did is it led me to become fascinated with inner space and the infinite space of that. And that's why my master's and later my doctorate was in solid state physics. That was old man DuPont.
Wow.
I code back in 1960 for NASA. I was almost 16 years old, and was one of three that helped change Greek mathematics into English code. I did NOR-NAND, or what we call object-oriented, and or not. I didn't do the binary.
Oh, well, I have a question for you.
Okay.
You have worked with astronauts, you've worked with NASA. I was told by a friend that most of the astronauts, if not all of them, are trained in psychic abilities, and I was told remote viewing. Now, is that true?
No, yes, and no. Remote viewing, no. Astral projection, yes. One is inside the circle, one is outside the circle. When you do any kind of thing, you draw a circle of protection around yourself. It can be imaginary or it can be in the sand, it could be anything. Basically, the whole thing is for you to decide everything inside the circle is me, and everything outside that circle is not me. And now you know what is you and what is not you. When you remote view, you're using something else to see for yourself. And that self is looking back at you. You want to do an astral projection rather than remote viewing. That's where you have an astral cord, like your circle. Everything, it's connected to you. Now, astral projection is not any more difficult than remote viewing. It's just a point of reference. Get me?
Okay. Yes.
Or you want to start trying to move toward using astral projection, where when you go over there to look at what's going on, you have a connection to your physical body, the astral cord.
Yes. Wow.
Not, yeah, that's a metaphor.
It is.
And by
That's
the way, that's
amazing.
Bateson that said that. He said, "What is your metaphor? But to serve your paradox." So, of course, I put my box out in my meadow.
You've got jokes. You have the best sense of humor. I feel like we have to have a good sense of humor to get through this life. What do you think?
Wait, you have to laugh your way through this thing, or it's going to take you over. I'm not kidding.
We have to
Just like,
keep humor. Yeah. If I'm not laughing, I'm crying.
well, there it is. I laugh so crying.
I know. I try not to cry. Well, before we go today, I wanted to ask you about your agricultural background. And you talked about growing pot on the moon. Okay.
Well,
What do you do with your agriculture?
yeah, when I left the Pentagon, I was
Mm-hmm.
lead physicist. I moved to Grants Pass, Oregon, and the fifth richest man in the world flew all the way over from Nuremberg. Henry Barth hired me on the spot and gave me 28 farms in 4 states, hop farms, which means they had hop dryers so I could do alternative crops that couldn't necessarily be field dried. You had to dehydrate them, sage, oregano, that kind of thing, and peppermint leaf, spearmint leaf. I did that for, no, I started writing for Acres USA. Chuck Walters gave me my own column because whatever I do really, really well. I was gifted in that way. There, however, was always someone better. When what was his name? It started permaculture. Bill Mollison. I wrote a basic article on Bill Mollison and introduced him to North America. And I did the same thing with Fukuoka on the one straw revolution. And I wanted to make a distinction between organic and sustainability. Organic is primarily now political. Um, it was uh, Otto Richter out of Canada, Conrad Richter's father, that started the organic farm movement in North America. And the distinction is organic is more like political by the state. Each state has its own rules of what constitutes organic. And I was part of TILT out of Oregon, but Richter's of Canada, when I started working with Conrad, I realized that sustainability is the better form of agriculture than even organic, because the soil tells you by the weeds that it's growing on it what, any type of chemistry that you might do, a soil plug or whatever, the crop growing on that field will tell you more about the chemistry of that field than anything else. And necessarily things like red spider, thrip, nematode, they have their purpose, so they're not bad or good, predicated on, what they're doing. Now, let me give you an example. Roundup. Roundup is a translocator that turns into inorganic soil elements within 10 days. But when you put it in the gene of corn, so you don't have to till the grasses out, now that becomes toxic because Roundup itself is poisonous, but it's gone if you use it as an application on the soil. It's gone within 10 days and it breaks down to inorganic salts and it's not a problem. But if it's in the
Interesting.
corn, then it won't allow grass to grow in that field ever again.
Oh
That's the
gosh.
so that's what a GMO is. But a
Okay.
GMO isn't necessarily bad or good. It's the intent of what you're trying to do that determines what's good or bad.
Wow. This is for entertainment purposes only to the audience. Okay. We have to say that when we start talking about stuff like this sometimes, just to cover our butts. Okay. So that's
Yeah,
fascinating.
aren't necessarily the views of the station.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Oh man. You know what's up. You know what's up. Uh, that's pretty fascinating. Okay. And so you are actually, you still have a farm right now? Are you still growing
No, I'm
plants
I'm
and stuff?
trailer park with a bunch of criminal bikers, but
Oh,
what I
fun.
like
That
to,
sounds interesting.
no, Vagos versus Hells Angels. You don't want to go there. Trust me.
Yeah.
His best man at the grandson, which was half Vagos and half Hells Angel, and the Vagos up here in Oregon would like to use me, manipulate me in a war they've been with 3 generations with the Hells Angels. And
Oh
I
my
went down
goodness.
Coast 101 with Frank and Ken Kesey way back when in a book that Tom Robbins wrote called Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. There was this Tom and Frank and Ken Kesey, and with them was this weird guy called the Magician that was a physicist teaching magic, and everybody liked him because he was intellectual, even though he had martial arts. And that's I'm being
Sounds like
in.
you.
What I would like to do. I have 147 unfinished manuscripts. And I'd like to finish those on a farm situation where I'm managing the farm, where I bring children in to teach them how to farm. Because you and I are too old to save this earth. And if it goes down like I think it does, those children are going to need to know how to produce their own food. And the advice I could give everyone right now is you need right now to discover how to produce 40% of the food you eat. If you can do that, you will be probably a good lane of survival because the rest of the food you produce, you can barter for food you can't grow. It needs another region or another part of the country. And that's where barter is going to start becoming very important. Chattanooga was one of the cities that hired me to go in and teach them how to produce and be self sufficient, like Vancouver, BC. Those two cities produce 40% of the food consumed in that. Every single restaurant on the Chattanooga River now has a greenhouse producing the salad bar and the rest of the food that that restaurant would consume. And yet you can see Atlanta with even the Luther King thing, is not able to produce 40%. And when the grid goes down, you can count on that so-called just-in-time delivery system of 3 days before you're out of food is going to
Yeah.
fall. And it's going to get real weird with the young kids not giving a damn about older adults in terms of who comes first for food.
That's right. That's right. And we can have all the canned food and prepackaged foods and storable foods. We've all got it. A lot of us do. But that's going to run out eventually.
So
And you got to know how to grow your own food.
every part of the United States has native plants. I did the last year I was doing botanicals. I did 150 truckloads of ponderosa pine cone out of Lapine and Sisters. That's $10,000 a day in labor for 8 months. What color would you like your fire starter, Mom? East Coast, and the
Mhm.
West Coast has fire hazard with all the pine cones laying
Yeah.
on. That's the concept of barter.
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's important. And also we need to know it's important to know the medicinal plants as well, like golden root and things like that. Not just foods that we can eat, but foods that will heal us as well. And
Well,
our and
yeah,
organics foods will heal us too.
yeah.
But
That's the
yeah.
distinction between German standardized extract and target chemistry over full spectrum. For example, acetylsalicylic acid comes from aspen leaf and aspen bark, but aspen leaf and aspen bark contain natural buffers that are unrelated to the acetylsalicylic acid. And so I think something more when you find dimethyltryptamine, for example, in crabgrass that stimulates your immune system to create your third eye opening. What do you think? It's not about chemistry anymore. There's something more going on here, like a delivery
Mm,
system of God. And so I don't know, but I recommend herbal pharmacy because you can find, like the Northern Cheyenne Indians used to chew echinacea and gustifolia, not purple coneflower, which is a rudbeckia. And the reason they chewed it is because it increased the turgor in their synovial fluids and caused electrostatic fields to establish around the turgor, and that limited or isolated or localized the infection of spread going through the mouth, and then your immune system was able to go in and take care of a virus. That's where you chew it. You don't take it as a pill that goes down into digestion. The way it works. Each herb is different. And
mhm.
while I have a 9 volume encyclopedia on alternative agriculture, I have a new encyclopedia coming out with 360 PDFs that I've written, like comfrey. Comfrey has lysine and elantoin missing amino acids in alfalfa. And while Osaka has feedlots that are 60-story buildings where the cattle never see the light of day, what happens next is the cattle are rampant with disease. However, just by creating a 60%, 40% comfrey alfalfa cube or pellet, completely eliminated the disease.
Oh
Because,
wow.
just, and I have 360 different PDFs on different herbs like that,
Mhm.
where, 16 pages on how to establish, farm, harvest, process, and process for cottage industry or as a raw material, and how to different potential mom and pop cottage industries. I did, as an example, when I was teaching the potential of herbs as a cash crop at the RCC, I took red clover and made golden eagle herbal chew, where the pistils in the red clover blossom held the glycerin, and you could swallow it rather than having to spit it, as a metaphor.
Wow. Wow. This is so it's important to have this, especially as an encyclopedia goes, to have it in print with paper. So, not everything not be online 100%. Print it out and have it as an encyclopedia in your home on a bookshelf somewhere. It's so important to have these survival skills.
Inexpensive. The
Hmm.
problem is it costs more money to ship a book into Canada than the book itself. And so what
Yeah.
I've is I've reduced prices on a lot of my books where I put them as a series, like the 5 book Power Tools series has the ESP, Power Tools, and Non-Local Mind with two, small books for $54 so that I can land the books cheaper in
Hmm.
Austria or Europe or Asia or Canada. Canada, to ship a $24 book will cost somewhere around $32 to $42 just sending
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
You have to send everything first class outside the United States, unless,
Yeah.
of course, you have a performance center in that country, shipping locally.
Hmm. It's expensive. It is, and you have a bunch of books. We're gonna promote all your books today, and I want everybody to
Well,
definitely please
yeah,
go
and I'm
purchase some of his
curious.
books.
I write physics and metaphysics, meta meaning beyond.
Hmm.
And I have a 15 8-week courses I taught at Harvard online uh, in metaphysics. Meta meaning beyond physics. And then I write on magic and the occult. And then the third area is alternative agriculture.
Oh yeah. Well, what I'm doing right now, I'm showing the audience some of your books, your handbooks. These are absolutely amazing. The Diamond Body. We have the Non Toxic Farming Handbook. Lots of handbooks here, and of course books on ESP and the holographic universe. That is my one of my favorite topics, and alchemy and self hypnosis. And we talked about that in the beginning of the show today. So please go over to richardallenmiller.com to purchase these books, and also you also do consulting. Is that correct, Rick?
Yeah,
You do consulting
I'm
with people.
available as an outside consultant where I can walk your four corners, whatever you want me to do. Yes.
Oh yeah. How
I,
many
I
books have you written? Have you written 140 something books?
no, that's 147 unfinished manuscripts.
Okay, goodness gracious. I mean, they just keep scrolling and keep scrolling. uh Gosh, this is amazing. You are just, and like I said, you are the most
Area.
interesting man in the world.
Mushroom
Okay.
area. Yeah, mushrooms are psychedelic, gourmet, and pharmaceutical. And I started with psychedelic mushrooms with high times. Then I moved to gourmet mushrooms where I was exporting about 100,000 pounds of chanterelle every month with buying stations for people picking the mushrooms when they're in season. And then I got into pharmaceutical mushrooms, which have sugars, are little tiny sugars. Then you have beta glucans, which are complex sugars that have geometry to them. And then you had polysaccharides that would have more than 100 oxygen molecules. And the polysaccharides are what turn on your ATP, which is a little quark gluon plasma that starts your immune system. You can't get enough oxygen in your body. And there are 72 different pharmaceutical mushrooms. And one of them, known as the matsutake mushroom that is used in Japanese cooking, has a $1.4 billion single market. And the United States only has a 3% market share because you can't establish the mushroom. You have to discover where it's fruiting and then you go in and harvest. However, I discovered how to identify the mushroom stand off season using Landsat NOAA infrared, and then you can go down and start farming the mushroom where it is by almost 11 times the yield, which would allow us to go from 3 to 12% market share. And I have a business plan if someone wants to play that, because what you do is you go into Arctic Alaska and you start farming it. And as the season moves down, you end up down in Peru at the end of the season farming these mushrooms and having a $1.4 billion single mushroom market. And that's
Oh
with
man.
top out of Vancouver, BC, as a Korean exporting for me into Japan. I don't want to do that anymore. What I'm doing now is trying to finish at 82 years old. I'm trying to finish 147 unfinished manuscripts to include that business plan as one of them. I've even written a book on absinthe. When Johnny Depp had his Viper Club down in L.A., he sent up a bunch of bikers and a limo and brought me down to teach how to drink absinthe correctly. Here's where optional. And, yeah, and the concept of the green fairy and how you lose it using heat and ice.
Wow. Man, I tell you what, sign me up for the mushroom growing. I tell you what, I could use an extra side hustle. Okay, Rick,
The thing is,
that's a lot of money.
going to meet thing and where we're going to be at is in barter or trade. I have this, you have that, I need that, you need this. Now it will be your neighbor that saves your life.
It will. It's good to know your neighbors and to have good neighbors. And when my son and I moved recently, the past couple of years ago,
About to lose.
he ran into our. Mm-hmm, my
Yeah,
son ran
battery.
into.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, so my son asked our new neighbor. He said, "Can we trust you?"
Can we trust me?
He asked the neighbor if we could trust him. Yeah. you know, well, if things, if you do decide to teach some kids farming and things like that, I would gladly bring my son out to Oregon to have him learn by you.
Institute, which is a university for gifted children, because I consider them more important than oil or timber. And why would they want to send our children to school to become us? I was gifted. I watched what happened to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, you are so silly. Oh man, y'all are cutting up. You got my friends back there in the background with you.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Well, can you hear me?
About to go.
Okay. Well, let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up. Thank you so much for being here with me, Rick. Dr. Ram, you are one of my favorite new friends that I've. Yes. Thank you so much. Do you have any final words of advice for our audience today? With anything, any kind of final thoughts?
One of this is on my website. If things aren't working out, don't worry. Things always work out in the end.
Mm-hmm. If things aren't working out, they will eventually.
Always work out.
Mm-hmm.
Things always lead to something better. Always. Just stay focused. Keep your eye on the ball. I have a book, one of my booklets in the 5-book series is called Can You Live Off the Grid for 30 Days? And it runs it down, chapter and verse on what you need for entertainment, food, water. 3 minutes for air, 3 days for water, 3 weeks for food. There's your priority.
Yes. Yes. It's time to prepare. I always encourage my audience to prepare for anything and hope for the best and strive towards the best. And, we manifest our own reality. And so I encourage everyone to not live in fear. Live in awareness.
In Pandora's box. It's persistence over unrewarded genius.
Unrewarded genius. Man, I love it.
Persistence. Staying focused.
Yes, stay focused. Stay focused. Well, Dr. Ram, thank you so much for being my guest today. This has been a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. And so to the audience, please go to richardallenmiller.com. It's right here on the screen, and purchase your books. And man, I can't wait to have you back on the show very soon. Okay, we'll bring you back on the show soon. I hope, man, I'm hoping for the best. And if things are not working out, I'll always remember that things will get better. The sun will come out tomorrow. Hopefully. All right. Well, everybody, have a wonderful day. Thanks again to Dr. Richard Allen Miller and my good friends who are behind the scenes helping with the production today. I love you guys. And
it's possibly one of the best handlers I've had, and her husband.
Of mine. And what's up to Keith as well. Thank you guys so much for all your help today. And I want to thank everybody in the audience today, everybody who's here in the live chat. And to all my moderators, Asha, we're going to take them down off the screen today. Thank you guys so much. This has been a total treat. And I can't wait to have Rick, aka Dr. Ram. I was calling him Dr. Ram because I had not called him Dr. Ram before. Okay, or Dr. Ram. He was Richard Allen Miller, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. And of course, I did meet him through James Rink and the Super Soldier Activation Conference down in Orlando. So thank you to James Rink. And also thank you to my good friend Asha, who you guys just saw there for a brief moment in time. And this has been a great show. I hope you guys all learned something. I always learn from all of my guests. And Dr. Richard Allen Miller is a treasure and one of the most interesting men that I have brought on the show yet. And one of the most interesting men I have met to this date. And so, you guys, I hope everyone stays safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel. Do prepare for anything, but let's strive towards the highest timeline. And yeah, don't live in fear, y'all. Live in awareness. I love you guys. I'm sending all my love and light to all of you. And I will see you back here next time. You guys have a great day. Take care of yourselves. All right. Bye, y'all.